There we go. All right, folks. We're live now, I believe. I think it worked. All right. So apparently I didn't hit the go live button. I was just sending out the tweets and all that stuff. So anyway, we've got EmberGen version 0.2.2. Our initial release was actually 0.2, but we had to do 2 different patches. So it's 0.2.2 now. Anyway, we added quite a bit of stuff, and there's some cool new features, a lot of cool stuff going on for both games and film, and so we'll kind of walk you through some of the new features here, and after that, we can just kind of play around, maybe get some stuff into Unreal, and figure out what we'll do. So anyway, what you can see here is we've got like a simple explosion, and this is mainly showing off that we have 2 new things here. So if I start this and then I pause it, oh, come on, pause. Okay, we'll start it again and then we'll pause it. All right, so one of the cool things is now you can visualize your fuel. So in this case, we can see that our fuel is green. So you have the ability to visualize your fuel by turning on this fuel density. And one thing it's really good for is filling in some of the voids that you get within Fire. So if you want to, you can say, okay, I want to visualize my fuel maybe for debugging, and we can see how much of it's getting burnt away. We can see that all the fuel disappeared. And then one of the other things is you can say, okay, well, what if I colored this black or something like that, so that we can get some better coloring in our actual Fire and our shader, and so now it looks more like smoke. So from here, that's the gist of the fuel update. You can also change like the minimum density and change the amount of scattering throughout the fuel. And from here, let's see, where is it at? Fuel density scattering. So you can scatter in the fuel, or you can scatter in the actual smoke. So you have that choice. That way you can make sure that your shader is perfect. I should stream on the Twitch. The thing is we have no followers on Twitch. We have all of our followers here on YouTube. So yeah, so from here, we've got that. And let me just get our little change list here on my other screen. Let's see, announcements. All right, so the other major thing that we added was we added tooltips. So if you hover over any particular thing, you'll see, if you hover over it for about a second, you'll see that it shows a nice little tooltip that'll make it so that if you go through something, you can say, oh, well, what is advection, and what does my resolution mean, and this, that, and the other. So tooltips, big request. We went ahead and added it, and just to stay safe. Then next, looks like we've got some Vbb exports. So for people who are in the film industry, or rather if they're even in the games industry and they want to render their flipbook or whatever in a different software and they don't think our renderer is good or whatever, I don't know. People can export VDBs. So if you have a license, we have different export types. So of course with flipbooks, if we went here and said, okay, let's view our top-down angle. Oh, let's see here. Let's view our top-down angle, and maybe we wanted to export this as a flipbook or something. It's kind of a bad flipbook. What you would do is you would generate this flipbook. Let's see, we'll go here, and oh, come on. What's it doing here? Let's do frame 55 as the start. We'll go here and generate the flipbook. And it's not generating on the first loop, which is weird, but okay. These kind of things happen on stream. It works every other time. So you can see here is our little flipbook, and I guess it stopped because I have it on looping, and that's why it started over again. But anyway, so that's your flipbook. And then from here, if you want to, you can save it as an image sequence. And then for the rest of it, so you can save it as an image sequence, or you can save it as an actual flipbook. And then you can export each of your channels. So you have ways to export your PNG, TGA, EXR. so that you can have full HDR support. Whatever you generate, you will be able to view those channels as well. So say if we want to say, all right, let's go ahead and export a normal map as well. And so we'll go ahead and generate this flipbook again, and it's going to loop for some reason. And you can't see that it's updating too much because the viewport hadn't changed terribly. So there we go. And so it's going to do its next thing on the next loop. And so from here, you can see that now we can view our motion vectors, we can view our normal maps, that kind of thing. And so we have it so that you can preview your texture before you export it to make sure that it's right. So yeah, somebody asked, or they said rather, EmberGen is awesome. Thanks, Kay. Appreciate it. Everyone should try it, most definitely. Then, let's see, can't stick around. Yes, it will be an upload later on. Can we bring in our models like a house to interact with the explosion? Not yet. You cannot do that just yet. And hang on, guys. There's actually like a praying mantis on my microphone. You wouldn't believe it. Something that looks like a baby. Okay. I had to get him off the microphone. That was weird. I've been talking this whole time and there's a bug on my microphone. Anyway. So from here, where was that? All right, so we were talking about export. So yeah, so you can choose any export channel, and that's kind of the gist of the flipbooks. If you want to do sequences alone, you can choose sequence from the capture menu down here. And oh, sorry, I don't think I answered your question about the models. The thing on my microphone completely distracted me. Models, no, you cannot bring in models yet. You will be able to in the future. Sometime probably during our beta, which will be, I don't know, January. So expect it in the future, but it's just not available yet. All right. Then from here, we'll go ahead and, yeah, so somebody said, Handcuff says, so that's Joe. He says, geometry and SDF support and the ability to be accurate, at least appear accurately with the collision of the object. Yeah, I guess you're just, yeah, okay. Yeah, so definitely we will have it, and essentially what we'll do is we'll convert it to a voxelized mesh or go into, what do you call it, SDFs. So we'll figure it out, but I think we'll probably convert it to a SDF is what we'll do. So yeah, so with your sequence, it works the same way as Flipbook. You choose which channels you want to export. And so say, for instance, if we wanted to do, I don't know, 20 frames of this, we'll say start on frame, I don't know, 45 and end on frame 65 or something. We wanted to export a texture size of 512. We can go ahead and do this and say generate sequence. And we'll just do test, fill up our little presets folder. And we can see here that now it is exporting this as a sequence. And then if we go into our presets folder, we can see that we have our normal map, our motion vector, test render, all that good stuff. So yeah. And then one of the most important things that we added this time was VDBs. So I'm not actually going to export the VDBs in this case and show them in another tool because I don't have a license for any other tools. But the VDBs, they do work in, Octane or V-Ray, Houdini. Probably you can import it into FumeFX or something. I don't know why you would want to do that, but you can do it if you want to. And so, yeah. And just real quick, there's a question somebody asked, is there a comparison of how fast different GPUs render? There is no direct comparison that we have. The best benchmark I can give you is this right here is 192 by 192 by 256, and it looks like I'm getting about 28, 29 frames per second. If I turn off some things like my large scale vorticity, we'll probably get some better FPS. It jumps up to 37, 32, it kind of depends. So yeah, so it really depends on what your settings are, what your GPU is. We recommend a GTX 1060 as like the bare minimum. If you want like the best absolute, the best thing that you could possibly get out of EmberGen, an RTX 2080 Ti or 2080 Super or whatever is probably going to give you the best results. Maybe even some of the higher end graphics cards from NVIDIA past that would be even better. I'm running this on a GTX 1080, so that's kind of what you can expect in terms of performance is this. So on my 1080, and you can see here I'm getting 56 frames per second. The other thing is depending on your advection method, kind of depends on your stuff. Yep, and multiple GPUs will not help you. Going back to the VDB stuff, you can choose to export your density, temperature, velocity, fuel, your flames, which fuel is basically like your actual fuel inside the simulation, which we can see here. And then what you do is you can set a threshold, which if we view, say, our little 6-point lighting, maybe in a different one, but yeah, so you can kind of see like a haze being generated inside of a cube. That's a bug inside of our alpha right now. So if you exported this as an actual VDB file, you're going to see that haze in your densities. But what you can do is you can change this threshold, and it'll take this and make any 0 inside of the VDB equal this number, and that ensures that you won't have weird density issues and things like that. So yeah. And then the next thing is like your coordinate system. So some different tools, they believe for some weird reason that Y is up. And so if you're using like Houdini or something and you think that Y is up and it's the best way to work or whatever, that's just what the software uses, you can export as Y up, or you can choose Z up. Thankfully there is no X up in software these days. And then you can choose your offset type. So you can say, okay, well, the center of my volume is 0, or you can make the floor of the volume 0. Philip says, can you emit from imported geometry and import a camera? You cannot do any of those yet. We do have plans for making it so that you can import from, that you can emit from emitters. So we have a roadmap. So let me go ahead and link that real quick. Roadmap. And then let's see. Just pasting it. So yeah, so that's our roadmap. You can go ahead and view that. I'm sure that the live stream is a bit behind. So yeah, the roadmap will show you what's in, what's not, what's coming. But definitely we're going to have imported geometry as emitters, and we're also going to be able to import cameras in the future, probably through animated FBX or Alembic files. It just kind of depends on what most people use, and we'll go from there. So yeah, so back to the VDB. Of course you have your start frames, and you can choose which frame you're starting on. And so we'll export just a very few amount of these little things, just so that I can show that it does work. So let's say, I don't know, 15, we'll export 2 of them. And so we'll go ahead and say, okay, let's generate our VDBs, and we'll say fire stream or whatever. And then boom, that was the 2 frames. I believe it was 2. And then where is it at? Okay, fire stream VDB. So here's your 2 VDB files. Like I said, I don't have anything on my computer right this second that can actually load the VDB files. EmberGen doesn't load imported VDB files at this moment. But yep, so you can use those in Octane or V-Ray or Mantra or whatever you want to render in. So yeah, so that's one big thing. Next up, so I did PNG, VDB, TGA, EXR, showed off all that. We got image sequences. The next thing is direct viewport capture. So one thing we can do is let's go over here. We'll go back to our flipbook, and let's say we'll do this. And let's say that we wanted to render this right here to show it off on Twitter or some kind of subreddit or whatever. So if you wanted to do that, what you can do is you can do a start recording. Once again, you have to have a license for this during the alpha. at least to my knowledge, for the start recording. So what you do is you say, okay, I want to start recording, and we'll say fire render 01 or something, or maybe A is better since it's going to number all this. And so now you can see it is recording the screen. And so then if we go over here, we can see all of my little images. And then if we step through them, you can see that it is animated. And so you bring this into, Premiere Pro or, Sony Vegas or some other tool, maybe even Houdini can render this kind of stuff. I don't know. And then you can probably also use like FFmpeg to compile this whole image sequence into an actual video. So that shows off direct viewport capture. You can also do a singular screenshot. So if you click snapshot, it'll take just one singular frame. And so you do have to click start and stop recording manually. So yeah, so from here, our next thing to show off, so advection methods. So with different advection methods, so inside the simulation mode or node, we have a couple of different things now. It's actually more than a couple. So mainly it's just different ways to advect stuff. You can see some things are not loved. Some things do not really work that well. And so you can just kind of test. You'll get different shapes depending on which one you do. So you can see that this fourth order creates nicer, longer flames, while the Euler is kind of smaller and more tame. Well, we've also got BFECC, and you can see that it's like really noisy fire and things like that. And you can choose like, Ralston and whatever. So we have different advection methods you can choose from, play with them, figure out which one you like the best. And that kind of shows off just a little bit of how these different things work. And hopefully this works on the stream. I've got a really big, simulation. It's our building implosion file. You can try it and blow a transistor on your graphics card if you want to. Just kidding. Our software won't destroy your graphics card. But yeah, so from here, you can see that this right here is using our BFECC advection method. It gives you some really nice details inside the smoke. It's pretty high fidelity, and we're getting really close to all of the other tools out there. And so yeah, sorry for the software running really slow simulating this one, but it's quite nice, and it's really pretty to look at, especially once you pause it and look around. And that segues into another thing. Instead of just having, the typical orbit around a center or whatever, what you can do is you can middle mouse button now to pan and translate like you could previously. But then if you right click, it turns into a free cam, and you can use WASD to fly around the viewport. And so yeah, so you can go in and fly through the smoke. You would get some kind of weird upside down world if you flew through the smoke, but now you can actually view your clouds or simulation or whatever from the actual inside of the software, or sorry, from the actual inside of the volume. And so yeah, it's pretty cool. And if you need to reset your camera, just press C and it'll reset the camera and the pivot and all that stuff to the center of the volume. Going on to the next thing, looks like we've got gravity, subtraction, dissipation, floor collisions, that sort of thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just start a new preset here. And so with our gravity, it's pretty simple, which I believe it might be reversed. But if you say negative gravity, your flames and whatnot are going to, and let me turn off looping, your flames are going to go downwards. So what we can do is we can say, okay, let's go ahead and lift this up a little bit. And then from here, what we'll do is we'll say, okay, we got this gravity, and then segueing into our next feature, what we can do is we can say, okay, we want the ground to block this. So this is the only collider we have in the game right now, or not in the game, in the actual software. And so you can see it's actually a little bit above the bounding box, but that's okay. Actually, the bounding box might be right there. It's probably just the bounding box is above the floor. But either way, so you can indeed create collisions with the ground. And what we could do is we could lower our smoke dissipation here, and we can see that we have smoke that lasts longer. And if you want to, we could probably shoot this stuff down into the floor, and maybe it'll expand more. Yeah, so boom, you can see we have a much better collider whenever you have a lot of force. So that kind of showcases our force for the floor, the blocking grounds. And then also we added a thing, which I don't think this was in our changelog, but you can decide whether or not things are local space. So now if we actually rotated this emitter, you can see that it's going to follow the sphere. And so based on the rotation, since now it's in local space, so we do have local space forces now, which is pretty cool. And you can change that by checking world space again if you wanted to go back into world space. From here, the next thing in our simulation pipeline is we've got subtractive dissipation, which means that instead of using multiplicative dissipation, it's going to use subtraction, so you get some really hard fall-offs, which is pretty cool for stylized stuff. And so if we say turn on this flames dissipation, but then maximize our smoke, you can see that we get something that's almost like anime or cartoony or whatever. Someone says, do we have to use presets, or can you show an explosion from scratch and explain all the sliders? You don't have to use presets. You can create something from scratch. I mean, that's what I'm doing right now. So all this is just, you know, from the default scene, and you're just creating it from scratch. I can do an explosion in just a little bit after I go through the rest of the stuff, and I can show you how to create an explosion from scratch. That's not a problem. So yeah, so we have subtractive dissipation on, you know, your fuel and all that stuff. You also have like force dissipation, and so yeah, so lots of cool stuff. It's really cool. You can make like a little rocket launch. So we could say export this position. So what we'll do is we'll go here and we'll say, okay, let's go to our position here. And then what we'll do is we'll make it something like that. And so now, if we restart this, it's kind of like a rocket launch. And so that's kind of cool. And so yeah, it's kind of like a little anime rocket launch. We could probably make the smoke a bit on the brighter side. So let's see here. Something like that. Some bluish smoke. Another thing is we could lower the extinction so that we can actually see through this thing. And then we can increase like our quadratic, turn that off, increase this so that we get some better coloring, maybe increase our extinction now. So yeah, so now we have something that looks like this. It's pretty cool. And so yeah, there's that. So on my list, the next thing is wind. So now, so say we have this little rocket thing, and we wanted to add some wind to it, or maybe we'll want to make a smoke plume. So that's what I'll show. So let's go ahead and make a smoke plume, and I'll show you how you can use wind. So let's boost this resolution up to 256 cubed. And then I'm going to take my emitter. I'm going to turn off the position editor thing. And then we're going to go over here, and I'm going to make this go all the way into my x-axis, something like this. And then I'm going to change my simulation mode to combustion. So this is another thing we fixed. Change it to simple. So previously, if you changed it to simple, you wouldn't see any like updates from this thing. And so that was a boo-boo on our part. And that's because our smoke temperature or smoke strength by default was 0. So you wouldn't really see anything. So from here, we also need to change our gravity back to say like 1 or something like that. So we can just reset that parameter. And oh, my directional force is pushing it down too. So let's go ahead and turn off my directional force. And what we'll do is we'll actually say, let's do centrifugal. And then from here, we'll maximize our velocity exports. And when can beta users save and export into other DCC apps or UE4? As soon as the beta is out, we'll have a 14-day trial. After that, you won't be able to export anymore. So we're not going to have any kind of thing where you can like continually use the software forever and have, you know, watermarked exports. Just because we're focusing on games and film, you could utilize that stuff for your projects and essentially have EmberGen for free. So it's a 14-day trial. And then after that, I mean the software, it's incredible, right? You're not going to be disappointed if you bought the software. And then like even if you pre-ordered the software now just to test exports, you said, you know what, this isn't for me, we'd give you a refund. So there's no risk in trying out the software and buying it and getting exports and seeing what's up. So yeah, So back to this, let's see, our black body intensity, we're going to change this down to 0 to make the fire go away. And then what we can do is we can say, okay, let's go ahead and make sure that our subtractive dissipation isn't on. We want some nice smoke going on here. What we'll do is we'll change this to BF-ECC, which will give us a lot more detail within the actual smoke. And then I'm going to go to my light. I'm going to change my light intensity so that we can get some brighter colors on this thing. And then I'm also going to change our gravity a little bit so that it floats a little bit more. And so from here, let's see, we're going, where's my gravity at? Simulation. We need to fix all these parameters is what we need to do. We'll do that eventually. And so now we've got our gravity, and so we've got some nice stuff going on here. But now we want some wind to kind of blow this over, make it a nice smoke plume. And before I do that, I probably want to change how much extinction we've got so that we can really see what's going on within the smoke. Maybe increase our ambient color as well. So yeah, so from there we've got that. We can lower our quadratic a little bit to get some deeper colors in there. And so cool. So now we've got that. And now we can go ahead and finally show off our wind. So we can see that it's going to go in the Y direction. I want it to go in the X direction. And now we can change our wind speed. And now you can see that the smoke is going to move over. And so now you can preview your wind and whatnot. And so you can make it slower. And now you can see that it's not going to blow as much. And then if we wanted to make it more buoyant, instead of using gravity, you can change the buoyancy here. And then you can just kind of tweak it, and you can get like a cool little smoke. Yeah, look at that. That's some damn good detail for 256 cubed. And of course, we've got some issues like hitting the bounds and whatnot. If you wanted to mitigate that, we can go here, select box on our mask shape, change our mask intensity. It'll kind of smooth out those bounds. But yeah, so this could be good for like a shot where the smoke is going off the screen or something in a film. So yeah. Pretty cool. I guess it's Viderus is how you say your name. Can you make thin or wispy style smoke like a cigarette? Why, yes, you can. So what you do is you probably want to change your advection mode, maybe Euler. And then what you want to do is you want to say, okay, let's change our vorticity to 0 and maybe change our large scale vorticity a little bit. And so now you can see that it's really thin, it's kind of wispy. If you wanted it thinner, what you could do is you could change your smoke strength so that you're emitting less. We could also add noise to our emitter, something like this. And what that's going to do is it's going to break up the noise, it's going to break up the emitter shape so you could get it a little bit better. When you render something out, when you render something like this out as a flipbook, how do you ensure that it loops seamlessly? Currently, you cannot loop in the software. We're going to have a node for that in the future. And so basically, what you'll do is you'll feed your simulation data into it, and it will automatically loop it for you if you have a loop node. That's going to be in our beta, hopefully. But we don't have it right this second. But if you wanted to, there is a way to cheat. If you went into the capture and you generated your flipbook and instead said save as sequences or went to sequences, generated it as a sequence, you can put that in something like After Effects or whatever, and then blend the first and last frames together over a period of time, and that would ensure a perfect loop. So that's one way to get around that for right now until we have it in our actual software. Philip says, can you change the size of the bounds or have automatic resize? We don't have automatic resize yet just because of the way that GPU fluid simulations work. Since it's completely different from CPU and how the calculations are done, and this is on a compute shader, I don't know a lot of the technical details behind it, but automatic bounds are not simple in the slightest. So that's probably either a V1 feature, so post beta, or somewhere around there, right? So it's either at the end of our beta, post beta, V1, something like that. I'm not really sure when that's coming, but eventually. But then if you want to change the size of the bounds, right now the bound size is directly correlated to the resolution. So the more resolution you have, the bigger the bounds are going to be. We are going to change that in particular so that you can say, I want my voxel density to be, 2 voxels per, unit or whatever, or 0.5 voxels per unit or something like that. And then you'll say, I want my bounding box to be, 256 units cubed, or, 3,000 units cubed or something. And the resolution of the sim is up to your actual voxel density. And that way it's more compatible with other tools and a bit easier to use on that front. So yeah, so this is how you get some nice wispy smoke. You can also increase the smoke dissipation. And if you didn't want it as thick, you can go down here to your smoke density clamp, and you can make this a little bit on the lighter side. It's really finicky. And you can also change your smoke density scale to get some really thin wisps like this. So hopefully that answers the person's question who wanted a wispy style smoke like a cigarette. And also you could probably just make your emitter smaller in general, and you'll probably get some less wisps. Let's change our noise intensity. And so now we can go over here and let's go ahead and increase our smoke density again. And so now you can see that you have some thin wispy smoke, kind of like a cigarette. So yeah, that's kind of how you do it. And then if you wanted like some chaos to get some better wisps or whatever, you can turn up this chaos setting right here, which it does a little bit of crazy stuff, so it's probably not what you want, but you can create some nice thin wisps. We also have shredding, which can, so let's turn off my wind chaos. We also have shredding, which lumps together temperatures, and that gives you some cooler little wisps and sticks them together and that kind of thing. And so yeah, so you can change it, and that's another way to get some wispier things. So yeah. Next in our stuff, so I showed off floor collisions, wind. I just showed off shredding, but if we go back to our fire preset over here, and then I turn on shredding, we should be able to see that what it's going to do is it's going to push a lot of these flames up a lot quicker. It's going to bunch up that temperature and really make the things fly upwards. And so that's kind of what shredding does. It gives you some nice longer lengths and things like that. And then back on to the smoke example that we just had, I'm going to show our new thing called disturbance. And so let me go here, change this back, change our smoke fire ratio, and we can say that like 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. I can't wait till we have a color picker. I'll actually just make this like 1. So yeah, so from here, if I make our vorticity 0, you'll see that we'll have like a perfectly straight little smoke plume with 0 vorticity acting on the simulation. And so from here, what you can do is you can say, which is really odd, we've got like a cool little seam there. Well, I wouldn't say it's cool. I think it's just I don't know what you call it. It's something happening because we have no vorticity. Anyway, it's kind of interesting. So yeah, so if you wanted some disturbance, it just creates like, I don't really know how to explain it. I don't think this tells us what it is in a little tooltip. But I guess the best way to describe disturbance is it's a noise texture that is panning, I guess probably through the simulation channel, because you can change the scale of the disturbance. You can change the speed at which it pans through the smoke. And you can also change the shape. I'm not particularly sure what the shape does. Maybe it gives you, some better shapes here. And then you can also change your seed to change, where the smoke is or where the actual disturbance is and that kind of thing. And so then you couple it with shredding and you get some nice little clumps, and that can help you get some better wisp and stuff too. And if we change this to BFECC, we can see that we're starting to get some cooler little details. And then go ahead and just crank up this surface vorticity a little bit and turn on our real vorticity. And now you've got an interesting, highly noisy little smoke ball. And we could kind of fix this with centrifugal force again and get that smoke really rolling out of there. And then we could probably turn down our disturbance amount down here. I'm not sure what negative disturbance does. Maybe it pushes things outwards instead of inwards. It's kind of what it looks like it does. Just kind of reverses the angle of it. So yeah, that shows off one of our new features, disturbance. Oh yeah, next cool thing, emission from textures. So one cool thing is, let's take this, and I'm just going to create another new preset here, and we're going to emit from a box in this particular case. And I'm going to go ahead and change my width, change my height. So let's do say 0.5 and 0.5. I'm going to change my simulation to be like 196 or something like that in total resolution. Let's apply that resolution, and then we'll just do 0 as our location. And so then let's go ahead and change this to say colored smoke. And so previously colored smoke didn't really have any uses inside of our stuff. And I was informed that Euler is probably Euler. Is how you say it, I guess. I don't know. It's up to somebody else to figure out how it's pronounced. So anyway, so we've got this colored smoke. And from here, I'm going to drink some water real quick. So yeah, so what we've got now is we've got this colored smoke, and we can emit this from a actual mask. So we're going to try and open a mask, and let's see, let me go to my desktop. I've got some Trello stuff. Let's see, do I have this? Do I have anything in here? Cool. We've got a picture of an explosion. So it's somebody said when is version 1 due? March? I don't know. Sometime after beta, sometime next year is when version 1 is going to be. And then you mentioned fluid simulation will come also. Fluid simulation will be a completely separate tool, and so that's one reason why you should buy our suite. Is because if you have our suite, you'll get the new tools as well. And so yeah. But yeah, so liquid simulation, I guess you mean, will come as well. So then our smoke color, let's go ahead and change this, and let's go ahead and let's see if I can get this to work. Let's make our lighting more intense, and then what we can do is we can change our emitter to not use a cutout channel. And so now we have this, and then let's see if we can stop any of our buoyancy and any of our weight, any of our vorticity. And if we do that, is it going to show the image, or is it not going to work on stream? That's the question. Yeah, it's kind of showing. I guess I need to turn down my extinction shadowing. Yeah, it's kind of working. You can kind of see the image. It's kind of a finicky thing here. It looks like it doesn't particularly like this this mask. Maybe it's yeah, it doesn't like that. Let's see. One thing I could do is I could go, I'm going to pop this over here real quick. I'm going to select something else. Let's see, medium icons. We could do Jenga effects as our thing. Okay, so here we go. So this shows that you can use a PNG. And then what we could do is now inside of our emitter over here, what we can do is we can say, okay, we've got this, and we can change our box shape. I wish we had a way to make our box shape fit like the texture, but we can't do that just yet. So let's make this like a 0.25 or something. And so now we've got that, and we're showing off Jenga effects. And then what we can do is we can say, okay, let's add in some rotational force, and now we've got that, and so we can kind of blow the logo outwards. I don't know why all this goes to black, but it does. So yeah, so we've got that. I guess it's because we don't have our cutout. So what we can do is we can go to our cutout and we can say, okay, we want to use maybe the red channel as the cutout. And it looks like it's still got something up here for some reason. But yeah, so then you can have thickness. And so now you can see we've got the logo that's thick. If you had a proper alpha channel, it would work properly. So yeah, so that shows off like our emission from that. And if we turn on our smoke buoyancy, you can see that you can, emit from the texture itself. And then one cool thing is like, let's say we went into Photoshop, right? And so this is where it gets a little bit on the useful side for creating custom emitter shapes and things like that. So let's say that we had, let's go ahead and just create a new thing. We'll say 1024, so 1024, come on, by 1024. And then what we'll do is we'll go over here and we'll go ahead and fill this with a black background. And then what we can do is we can turn this right here white. And let's make sure that's all the way white. And then let's go ahead and put a brush on. I know this is going a bit outside of EmberGen, but it's a little bit of VFX work too. So it fits in well with our stuff. And so let's not use that. Let's just use, let's see, like this lightning or something. Oh, there we go. And so now let's just like throw in a bunch of stuff over here. Say that this is like some kind of crazy crack mesh or something. It's more lightning or whatever. And so yeah, so we'll just create a texture like this. And now let's say that we want to emit from this inside of EmberGen. So what we can do is, and actually, damn, I messed up. I'm sorry, stream. I'm sorry. Let's go here. There we go. Make that like that. And then we'll just do some stuff like this. Now let's save this. Save as. We'll just save it to my desktop. And we'll say emitter PNG or something. Oh. Let's go to File, Export, Quick Export as PNG, Emitter, and then we'll hop back into the software, and now we go to our emitter. We can open this file, and so let's go over here, and we'll say go back to my desktop. We've got our emitter here, and now you can see that we can emit from that. And so now what we want to do is I'm going to change this back to simple smoke. And now you can see that we're kind of emitting some fire. And then I also want to rotate my box. So let's see, not that direction. Is it going to be a Z? Yeah, so let's do 90 on Z. And now you can see that we've got this, our lightning showing up here. Roger says, hello, amazing piece of software from Jenga FX. Thanks, Roger. Appreciate it. So yeah, so from here, let's go ahead and remove our actually, you know what, we could make some flaming stuff over here. So what we can do is, okay, we've got our cutout channel. We don't need temperature channel or anything like that. We can, I don't know what this active position does in particular. And I guess we do want the full range. And then from here, we want to increase our box size again to make sure that our texture is completely square. And then we want to maybe change this to CUDA 4th order for our simulation type. We want to add in some vorticity. And so now you can see that we've got some flames emitting from these cracks. And so this is how you can get a very specific emitter type in an emitter shape. And of course you can extrude the depth of the emitter. And so you can make it bigger or smaller or whatever. And so that lets you create custom masks. And so then if we came over here and turned down our smoke dissipation, and then we worked on our shader a little bit. And so let's say that we want, change our quadratic fall off, add some extinction shadowing, maybe make our smoke, I don't know, white or something like that. So let's go ahead and change these colors up a bit. And so now we've got some cool thickness on the smoke, and we can change our scattering intensity. We could also tune our cooling. So this is not using combustion. This is using our simple model. And then we can change our cooling a bit, have these flames go up higher. And of course, with just mapping pure black body to this, you're going to have some, not a whole lot of control over what your flames are looking like and all that kind of stuff. Just due to the nature of mapping flames to, density or whatever, or temperature. So yeah, but you can increase like your temperature and things like that. And we've got a whole lot of mess going on here. This isn't particularly the best thing I've ever made inside of EmberGen. But anyway, so yeah, so you've got some cool vorticity. And of course we could change this back to combustion to get some real flames. And now we could go over here to our emissive scattering. I can't wait until we have this stuff in better nodes and whatnot. And then from here, we can increase our smoke temp range and, change our smoke gain a little bit. Maybe go over here and lower our fire colors and things like that, so that we get some better fire. And maybe we want to change this like 0.2 to get some nice darker smoke. And probably want to change this like 0.05 on that end. And so yeah, so now we've got some cool little flames and whatnot. So that just kind of shows you can emit from a texture. We probably want some higher simulation density on this thing, maybe 256, if you wanted to get into the real fire or whatever and start getting some cool stuff. And so yeah, and then from here, what you can do is, of course, like once we have better shading and stuff, you'll be able to have better fire. But yeah, so we can go here and kind of change this up a little bit. So our other software, so someone said, I couldn't understand your other software, Vector-Regen. How is that used? Essentially is what they said. So yeah, so with Vector-Regen, I can show that off too. Let me just create like a new fire here. So see, you can have cool fire. It just takes some work and some playing around. So yeah, so Vector-Regen, if we load that, what we can do, hopefully it loads. Okay, so Vector-Regen, essentially what it is it lets you create some cool stuff. So it lets you create vector fields. So we can see here we've got cool little vector fields. We can change like our our maximum value and our minimum value. So we could say -200 to make this go inwards, bring all these little particles inwards, that kind of thing. And so then let's say that we wanted to, I don't know, like create a custom noise field or something. So we can change our seed and our octaves and whatever. We can change our frequency. And so then, like, let's say that we wanted to use this right here inside of EmberGen, this particular vector field. We go to Save, Export Vector Field, and we'll go to our desktop. We'll just say Test, and we'll save that as our FGA. And then we'll go over here into EmberGen, go to our emitter, click Open File. Under the vector field settings, we'll import our test vector field, and then you can see here, this is the noise imported into EmberGen. It's very finicky, so we'll do like 0.02, 0.05, something like that. And so now you can see that you have a custom vector field noise texture in the actual software. And so yeah, and we can lower this resolution a bit so that it runs faster on the stream. So there you go. That's a pretty fast simulation. And that just shows off what things are doing. And now you can see that I have the vector field is rotating as well. So you can animate the vector field's rotation and you get some really nice custom chaotic noise. And it lets you do some things that you couldn't typically do within EmberGen itself. With our wind chaos, you can do it, but you don't have explicit control over what noise field you're using. And then you can say, okay, I want like a helix vector field or whatever, and maybe we want to take this thing and like let's make it. So let's go to our fade, and we'll make it go. Actually, we need to go to our rotate. Maybe we'll make it angle inwards a little bit more so that we get a nice spiral inwards. And then from here we can export this again, say test 2, and then go into EmberGen, and we'll go over here and load this in. And so say test 2. And so now you can see that with my vector field rotation, we've got some pretty cool stuff going on. Let me just stop this rotation. And so yeah, so now you can see that we've got a custom rotational vector field going on here. It's just kind of slinging this smoke outwards. You can change the scale and make it smaller and all that kind of stuff. It just kind of depends on what it is you're doing. So yeah, helps you create custom noises and whatnot. Yeah, so that's how vector agent is used. Next up on our features list, we've got fuel visualization. I've showed that. Volume slicing. So if you wanted to go into one of our presets, or your thing, and you want to diagnose what's going on, like let's say that we open our explosion fireball, and then we want to see the inside of this, we can go over here and we can change this like little slider, and so you can see like a slice of the actual vector field, and then you can change it, and so you can view like a literal slice of it. Now you have something that's it's kind of 2D, and you can export that little 2D thing if you want to, so you can view it inside of your little preview over here. And so yeah, so you can slice the vector field, export that out as a render if you want to. So yeah, so that's what volume slicing is, and that's about it. So yeah, so in this tooltip, in this build, we added tooltips, Vbb Exports, PNG, TGA, EXR, image sequences, direct viewport captures, new advection methods, new dissipation modes, gravity, floor collisions, wind, shredding, disturbance, emission from textures, emissive scattering, can light up the ground, as you can see here. And then we've also got fuel visualization, volume slicing, middle mouse button pans now, right mouse button is your free cam, and then camera clipping was fixed when you're inside the volume. So yeah, that's our fixes, and I think that's all I'll show on the stream in terms of what we did. And just for the person who asked for like an explosion from scratch, I can go ahead and do that now. So we'll start from a new preset, and you guys go ahead and ask me any final questions you may have. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer anything I need to. So yeah. So from here, let me drink some water, and then we'll build an explosion. And then we'll build an explosion, and we'll import it into Unreal, and we'll show you how to make a cool little particle system from it, and then we'll end the stream. Sorry if you can hear my gulping. My voice is getting kind of hoarse. All right. So an explosion from scratch. All right, so this is going to take a bit of fiddling since we don't have our new combustion system in. This old one's kind of hard to work with. In our beta, it's going to be a hell of a lot better. Holy crap. It's so much easier in our beta stuff, in our beta branch that we have under development. Anyway, we'll deal with what we've got. So first thing we want to do is we want to go to our emitter. Spheres work best, and we want to change our radius over time. And so let's go here, and you can see that apparently our new preset doesn't clear timeline stuff, so that kind of sucks. But anyway, we'll go over here to this, and we'll say start it right about here. And so the reason why I'm adding a delay is just to ensure that our vorticity is good. And so what we'll do is we'll make it 0, and then we're going to burst it. So say something like this, and I'm going to do, say 192. Actually, I'll do 256, so we'll have a pretty high quality explosion going on here. And then I'm going to change my method to BFCC, and now we can get some really high quality colors and whatnot. As I said previously, beta users will be able to export, but only for 14 days. I mean, it's literally going to be a trial, right? So you try the software, you can export for 14 days, and after that, you can't export anymore. And so that's it. It's like, we built the software. If you want to use it and whatnot, you got to pay for it. But yeah, so we won't have anything where you can like export indefinitely at a certain resolution. We're not doing that, because that can be used in games as an actual product. And since we're doing that, yeah, so definitely you have to purchase a license after 14 days anyway, and so might as well pre-order because you'll end up paying if you want exports in the future anyway. Anyway, so yeah, so you will be able to try it in the beta for 14 days. That's all I can really say about it. So yeah, so going on with the explosion, let's go ahead and restart this. We've got a nice burst, and then we want to turn it off by making the radius 0 again. And so boom, we've got a nice little burst there. And then what we need is, let's go ahead and increase our fuel strength to 2 so that we get a lot more fuel out of this. And then we can see that we've got a little fireball going on here. And what it can use is, first off, we want to animate this force type right here. So we'll go down to force type and we'll say, okay, at first, you are going to do a centrifugal emission of fuel. So what we can do is maybe want to, yeah, so Anton, we're going to post more lessons for EmberGen during our beta. Right this second, the software, it changes so much just internally that by the time we make a tutorial the next day, the tutorial is out of date. But during our beta, it should be stabilized. And so during that time, we'll have a lot more tutorials and we'll actually start producing real tutorial content. But other than that, kind of just have to rely on playing around and viewing our presets. And hopefully that holds you off until then. So yeah, sorry for not having tutorials right now. It just doesn't make sense for us to make them due to how much the software changes during alpha. So yeah, so from here, we've got a nice little explosion kind of going on, but we want a lot more, power behind this, and that's what our centrifugal force and whatnot is going to get us. So from here, we've got centrifugal force blowing this outwards, but then as soon as it's centrifugal and it blows it outwards, we want to change this to directional, and that's going to push it upwards. And so now you can see that we've got a nice rolling fireball. And then if we wanted to change this shading a little bit, so what we can do is let's go ahead and place this against a sky. So we'll view our atmosphere here. I'm going to change my sky intensity to like 3 or something like that. And then I'm going to change my sky transfer to 0 and increase my ground lit radius. And we'll kind of go from here. So now we've got a cool little explosion. You can see, I mean, this is extremely simple to make a simple explosion. It's just a couple of animated parameters. And then from here, what we want to do now is we want to try and get the fuel consumption and things like that a little bit better. One thing we want to do is we want to preview our fuel as well. So let's go ahead and crank up our fuel density scale. And let's just make this like, I don't know, like blue or purple or something, so that we can see the fuel emission. Oh, I was changing the wrong thing. What was I changing? I was changing my flames density. So there we go. Let's lower the flames density. So now we can see our fuel. The fuel is this blue stuff, and we can see it all getting burnt away. And then inside of our simulator, now what we want to do is we want to make sure that our smoke temperature or our smoke comes right at the end of the burn, so that we get some better smoke from this. And we can see that the fuel is kind of burning up. So maybe we need some more oxygen in the fuel. We maybe want to lower our intensity here, our ignition temperature. We probably want to increase our gain, increase our flame gain, maybe increase our fuel loss a little bit. And let's see how this is kind of performing. Oh, turn down our flame loss. So we've got that. And then what we can do is increase our smoke cooling quite a bit, but lower our flames cooling. And now let's kind of work on the actual colors of this flame here. So what we can do is we can go over here and say you do something like this. We'll maybe increase or decrease our black body intensity. We can change our color vibrance and then increase that a little bit. So yeah, so at first it's kind of ugly. And so let's go ahead and make this like 0.2 for the fuel so that we color the fuel a different color. We can see it starts out kind of black. And then what we want to do is maybe we want to increase our smoke gain. That way we're filling in a lot of the flames and fuel and whatnot. And then we want to decrease our smoke dissipation. Probably want to decrease our flames dissipation to 0. So now you can see that with the decrease in smoke dissipation, we're getting some better flame shapes, but we've also got a lot of fuel that's not being burned. So one thing we could do is lower our smoke gain again. And so from here, it's just kind of a back and forth. And so now we've got that. Also, our smoke is just extremely thick. So what we can do is we can change this extinction shadowing. And we probably want to change our thin color to like, so let's change our dense color like 0.3, something like that. And our thin color to like 0.1. And that kind of removes the white band. And then over here on our smoke density, we can change this, and we can kind of change our clamped scale. It's my fuel density that's really thick too. So yeah, so we can change our fuel density, change our smoke density a little bit, and now you can see we're getting a really nice explosion. By changing the density clamp in general, you get more fire through the smoke. Yeah, so same guy who's been saying, his name is AA or whatever. He says, if I go on a subscription, is there a path to get a perpetual license? What happens when someone buys your company? Oh man, I don't think we're gonna sell out. If someone offered us like $100 million, this is full transparency. So if they offered us $100 million today, we would probably take it. We've put a lot of work into this, and we would probably say, you know what, that's it. But honestly, I don't think we're going to get bought. I don't think we're gonna sell out. And in terms of subscription, if you buy an annual subscription, say today, you will instantly get a perpetual license. So our licensing is rent to own essentially. So if you buy a license today and say it's monthly, you won't get a perpetual license. You have to pay for 12 months consecutively without canceling, and that would give you a perpetual license. So let's see. Yeah, so then in terms of that, so with the licensing, which, you know what, I might as well just show it on the stream here. So let's take a look real quick. Let's take a look. we'll see this real quick. So yeah, so basically, if you pay for 12 consecutive months without canceling for any license tier, your license will turn into a perpetual. Staying subscribed keeps it up to date. If you cancel after getting a perpetual license, you cannot update that license anymore. The benefit to staying subscribed with us, besides having your software stay up to date, is that it gets cheaper each year. So year 2 is $223, year 3 is $167, and then from there onwards, this is the price on the suite. You know, EmberGen is a bit cheaper, VectorAgent is way cheaper, and of course we have monthly billing, and we have, you know, pricing for studios and floating, which is a lot more expensive for studios, but hey, they make over $1 million, so yeah. Yeah, so that's how our pricing works. If you want to find it, you click learn more, and then you can see all of our little questions that we've answered about what happens whenever I cancel, and does it come with customer support? Yes, it does. What are the minimum requirements? All that stuff. So all of the information you need is over here. And it says, like, if you pay for 11 consecutive months, so 11 months straight, and you cancel, you will not get a perpetual license because you have to pay for 12. If you do this and then start again, you have to pay for 12 months after this to get a perpetual. The best way to get perpetual is to just buy an annual license, and you'll save 20% by doing it. So yeah, that's my sales pitch. Going back to the software, I would say that this right here is a pretty damn good explosion example. What we can do is, it's going to be a little bit slower, but we can increase this to like 384 so that we don't hit the top of the bounds. And so yeah, so we've got something like this, and it's kind of rolling, explosions, fuel, consumption, madness. And so now let's say that we wanted to get this into our game engine. If you're in film, sorry, you can just export this as a VDB if you're in film, but we're going to do something for games here. So what we're going to do is let's render this out. 4K texture, 512 per sprite. Let's see what frame this starts on. I want to start my flipbook about here. So it looks like this is frame 90. So let's do like say frame 85. And then just telling me that I can't fit 85 frames. It's only going to do 64. And we're going to export our render. We're not going to do our motion vector. We're just going to do our emissive as well. And so for our emissive, I'm just going to do typical PNG as well. No normal map. I'm going to go ahead and generate this as a flipbook. And so we can see here that it's now generating the flipbook. And now we can take this right here and put it in our game. So now, and actually, I just wanted the emissive channel for that in particular. And then from here, I'm going to take my final render. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my visualization. And I'm going to say, don't render my flames. So render flames. Nope. So let's go ahead to capture. And let's go ahead and, nope, I don't want to save image sequence. I want to save this as a flipbook. And so I'm just going to go here, flipbooks. Yes, if you use the discount early bird. Yep, if you use the discount early bird, it will be cheaper than what's on the website. It'll be 15% off. So if you use it now, it's still in the pre-order phase. If you use that discount, you will indeed get a discount. So we'll just say Fireball. Let's save this out and hope it doesn't crash. Okay, cool. It didn't crash. And now we go to our desktop and let's go to my flipbooks. We can see them here. My emissive channel looks pretty good. It's as expected. So it doesn't look like it export. Yeah, it did. It exported my what do you call it? Scattering. That's good. So yeah, so this is my fire channel. Then I've got my render. But I want the fire separate from the render. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to go back, not into Vector-Agen. I'm going to go into EmberGen. And so from here, what we can do is I'm going to turn off my emissive export now. I'm going to go to my visualization. And then from here, make sure that we're not rendering our flames. Go back to capture, generate flipbook. And now we're going to see the fire disappear. Shit. I kept my scattering on. We should have it so that separates in the future. So let's generate again. And so now we've got this. Boom, now we've got perfect smoke. But it looks like my smoke channel changed. That's okay. I'm not worried about it. So we'll go ahead and just save this image as, you know what, I am worried about it. We'll save this as my fireball render. Let's just say fireball again. Ooh, save. And then let's go over here, do not export, and we'll do our emissive. We'll export this again, and we'll say visualization. Let's go to smoke scattering of like 1.7 again. And now let's go over here and generate the flipbook. And it should match our other thing. Okay, yeah, so it changed properly. So this is the proper emissive channel for the proper thing. And we'll go ahead and save this as a flipbook too. Go into flipbooks. Oh my gosh, did I really save it? I'm just messing up today, guys. I saved it as a sequence. That's not what I wanted. Okay. Delete this. Save this as Fireball. Holy crap. I hate our software right now. Okay. Do not export. Go over here. Go to PNG. And I guess luckily it cached this, so I can just save this as this. Fireball. Save. And now if I go over here, there we go. It saved all of it. All right. So I've got my proper thing, and it's what I want it to be. So let's go into Unreal. So now we've got this cool little scene that Mackenzie Shirk is his name. He's a friend of mine. He made this cool scene in Unreal, and we're gonna have like a little just explosion. I don't know, maybe down here in this hole or something. I'm not gonna go super into detail with it, but we'll just say let's go over here to this, and we'll go here, and we'll say let's just do content, new folder. Yeah, we'll have some export presets and stuff like that in the future. So yeah, and we'll have like texture packing and all that stuff to make it way easier than what you just saw. So anyway, let's go into this. We'll say new folder, materials, new folder, textures, new folder, particles. And so now let's go ahead and import our textures. We'll go over here, flipbooks. Let's import these two things. And then what we'll do is we'll just make sure that these are the right stuff. Looks like it is. And then we'll go here to our render. Yep, render is correct. And then we'll go to our material. We'll create a new material. Let's just say FXM Fireball 01. And then let's load this baby up. And we'll say texture sample, Fireball emissive. And then we'll go over here and we'll choose Fireball render. So we're going to plug in our render into RGB. We're going to plug in our opacity, or our alpha channel into the opacity. We're going to plug the RGB of the emissive into the emissive channel. And we should see some cool stuff. There we go. There's the emissive channel overlaid onto the smoke. So now you can get both smoke and whatnot out of this. So smoke and a fireball out of this particular texture, which is cool. And then from here, what we want to do is we want to change this to default lit is fine, but we want to say translucent. And from here, if we wait on this, we should see what it looks like. Yep, so that looks fine to me. Okay, and then what we can do is we can have a multiplier here, and we can multiply this by, I don't know, say like 5 or something, and get a nice juicy emissive channel out of this. It's just a really simple setup. Deceptively simple. It's not even deceptively simple, it's just simple. And so now we've got that. And now what we'll do is we'll save this fireball texture, and we're just going to hop into our little particle system and throw it on there and see what it looks like. And so go into our particles, create a new particle system, fireball, and let's go over here, make sure my viewport is real time. It is. Let's drop this fireball down here, and we'll do this, something like that. And then we go over here. Let's go ahead and change this to fireball. And so now we've got that. We need to make a sub UV index by right clicking, expand all. We're going to go to frame 63 from 0. And then we need to make sure that we have 8 by 8 and it's a linear blend. And so now it should work. There we go. There's our little fireball. And so now we can see down here, we've got our little fireball rendering and whatnot inside of Unreal. And from here, what we want to do is we want to make our initial size something like, I don't know, 100, maybe say 150 by 100. And then we want to change our size by life. So we want to go here, size by life, expand all. We want to say maybe 5 at the end, something like that. And then maybe we just want a simple burst instead of all these particles. So we'll turn that to 0, add a burst under our spawn rate. We'll just say 1 or maybe 5 or something like that. And then what we can do is we can change our lifetime to maybe like 1.6 and 2 as a range. And then what we'll do is we'll make it so that we have just one loop. So let's see, loops, just one. And so now we have that. And then what we can do is we'll say, okay, let's add in some velocity in this stuff and maybe have a spherical emitter. So we'll do spawn, nope, what is it, location, sphere, and now we have something like this. And now let's change the rotation of our stuff. And now we have something that looks like this in our viewport. Of course, it does suck a bit because our flipbook doesn't dissolve properly. If we wanted to do that, we could dissolve via the software here. So what we could do is we could say, okay, let's go ahead and change this simulation. Let's preview it. And we can see here that we've got that. And now let's go ahead and pause it. And in our simulation, we can increase our fuel loss. And that will probably do it a bit. And then we can also increase our smoke dissipation, something like that. And it would fade out faster. But yeah, so that's all the time I've got for today. But hopefully that shows how you create, a cool little explosion. And of course, with more fuel loss and things like that, you're not gonna get as much detail because it needs to go on for longer and things. And then we can, and I'm also not viewing my fire. There we go. So view our flames too. So yeah, so you can see that it fades out faster, and that's how you could get it to fade out within Unreal. Yeah, so within that is the end of the stream. I'm just over an hour. I only had about an hour to do it today, but that shows off how you quickly get it into Unreal. Sorry, it's not like a full-on particle, but that's all I have time for. So yeah, that is it. Reach out to us on Discord. You can look on our website, scroll down on the homepage, click join our Discord if you want to join our Discord. And other than that, that's all I've got. You can watch back on the stream and see what all of our new features were, and that kind of details it from here. Yes, you did miss the VDB stuff. Just for the guy who missed it. Just for the guy who missed the VDB stuff. If you wanted to export VDBs, you go over here to our flipbook, our capture, change the capture mode to VDB, select all your stuff that you want to send and the channels for the VDB. You can change your threshold to prevent density problems that occur within EmberGen so that they don't occur in your exports. Choose your start and end frames and hit generate VDBs. It takes a little bit, but after that, it's done. And then you have VDB files that you can export to or import in Octane or Cinema 4D, Houdini, whatever. It works with any other tool. So yeah, that's the gist of how it works. Of course, you have to have a license, as I've told a lot of people. You have to have a license to export. We'll have a trial during our beta. But right now, if you want VDBs, you can buy the software on JengaFX.com. And if you don't like it, we'll give you a refund. So there's literally no risk. Yeah, I'll put a link to our Discord. So let's just see, invite people. 1 second here. Edit invite link, expire, never, no limit, generate link. Hang on. Let me go here to our website, JengaFX. I'll just copy this one. Copy link. And let me go here. There you go. The Discord is where you can find us. So yeah, that is that is the end of the stream. Ask us questions in the Discord. Yep. Bring in cameras and stuff like that. It'll be in during our beta. So not yet, but it's coming. That's all I've got, folks. I have to go. Bye-bye.